To order, January 14th at 7:03 p.m. according to satellite time. Let the minutes reflect that all of the board members are present, as well as some staff members as well. The first order of business that we have are the minutes from the December 10th, 2014 meeting, and would entertain a motion of approval of those minutes.
I'll move.
Okay, it's been moved by Rob. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Linda. Any discussion of those minutes? Okay, they'll stand approved as written. Thank you, Lisa. We'll move on to monthly reports. Most of the monthly reports have been received. The ones we're currently missing are from the assessor, building fire marshal, local history room, and personnel, and would assume that we will have those in by week's end. There are no public hearings before the board this evening. We do have a number of guests, so we'll start with those according to the way they're lined up on the agenda. The first guest is Steve Filippone, talk about a project on Dublin Road. And with that, I will recognize Mr. Filippone and probably Mr. Vars from BME to share some information.
Good evening. We're here to present the 32-unit duplex ranch townhome community that we are offering as a green initiative project that will provide, at this time, 50% of the units will have geothermal and some solar elements. We also are planning to incorporate a electric car charging station into the development as well. We're hoping that the balance of the the remaining 50% of the development will be sold with geothermal and solar as well, and we may be able to leverage that depending on what we can get for state grants and other incentives.
Okay.
For a full green community.
Okay. Got it. So, do we have some plans to share of the property and just have an overview of that?
Yeah, and it's the same. What you'll get is an 11 by 17 of this same plan that's
Okay.
on the board. So, just to walk you through the basics, it actually consists of two parcels on Dublin Road. It's on the east side of Dublin Road, north of 441. This is the Dublin Corners subdivision to the south. The front parcel is about 7.1 acres. It's got about 205 feet of frontage along Dublin Road. And then there's actually a landlocked parcel in the rear that's about 6.2 acres that contains a DEC wetland in its buffer, and also it's a wood lot. The property is zoned RR1 today. As part of the sustainable initiatives that Steve's proposing, we are thinking of utilizing incentive zoning for the property to introduce the type of community that he described. Just conceptually, it would be served by a private drive. The lots would be on average of 123 feet wide by 150 feet deep. That 123-foot wide lot would contain the duplex units. So that's why we have 16 lots, 32 total units. We terminate the private drive about 2/3 of the way in the property, so that we're really not getting into the wood lot at all, and or definitely not into the wetland or its adjacent area. Property is served by public sewer and public water. It really is that straightforward as it relates to the layout coming into the property, as you see it there. So with that, Steve or I can answer any questions. I don't know if you had anything more to add, Steve.
Really? So, could you say a little bit about the first couple of lots right as you come in right off in Dublin Road there?
Right. There is an existing house there.
Okay.
This layout would propose that that house would be demolished. But the frontage lot would maintain a similar setback to Dublin Road as the existing homes that are along Dublin Road today. That first lot would be a little bit It'd be about 4/10 of an acre. That's the size of all these lots, which the lots to the immediate north and south are about a similar size, or around 20,000 square feet. They're 100 feet wide, 200 feet deep. So we would be mimicking that pretty closely. And then as we come in, then we would double load the driveway as it enters into the property, as basically the property widens once you get past those frontage lots along Dublin Road.
Okay, all right.
How many lots, how many houses could you put in it under traditional?
We believe with the RR1 zoning, depending how aggressive we would get into the woodlot, probably 6 to 8 lots. The RR1 zoning requiring the minimum 200-foot frontage.
Right.
And the 43,560 square foot. It would be a single loaded road that it would be because of this dimension here. It's not deep enough where it would be double loaded. But we roughly figured that.
Okay. And so, Steve, I know you started off the conversation talking a little bit about the, about the green initiative component. So I'm going to make an assumption. So rather than make an assumption, I should say, I'll ask: is that your proposal as part of the incentive that you're looking for, for this particular project?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so, again, without going into what I'd call a lot of technical detail, I heard geothermal. I recognize a geothermal guy right back there that I've seen at some different functions. But could you just talk a little bit about what, in a little more detail, what you've got planned, by way of geothermal for all the particular lots, and then what are some of those other functions or features that you'd be looking at doing for this project?
Come on up and help address the questions.
AJ Headingman from Easement Energy, and I know a lot of you guys here.
Right.
So I've been talking with Steve for several months about this project and about the incentive zoning and whatnot. And we've looked at a variety of applications for this use here, anywhere from geothermal, obviously, looking at doing a community loop field, meaning one large loop field would serve all the houses, to doing singular loop fields per house, kind of how everything lays out in the track here. We've looked at doing solar for each individual house that would provide electric offset for their consumption. We've looked at doing even everything from solar lighting, solar street lighting, even to when you see the nice signs when you enter the tracks, they have solar lighting there. And we've even explored the options of doing electric car charging stations, or multiple, or just one of them as you pull in, or at the model home to start out with, and even offer that as a package to potential customers. So we've looked at all those different applications. There's good federal and state tax credits. There's NYSERDA tax credits. And I'm involved in several other applications like this, and even NYSERDA is kicking in to help offset, because there is an incremental cost to do this. In areas where there's propane, natural gas, or propane and fuel oil, this is sort of a no-brainer. Here there's natural gas, so you can see the added cost is kind of where we're going at for the added lots in this area here.
But can it, what's happening there affect other area in the region? I mean, it's not that you like
Typically,
more than just that one development.
so when you're talking about affecting the soil temperatures underground.
No, not that kind of thing. I mean, what is the benefit? Yes.
Traditionally, incentive zoning is, the incentive is a town-wide benefit. So what, aside from this, is the town-wide benefit that's being offered up?
We're trying to be one of the first substantial projects towards your green initiative, where we're making a commitment to a significant number of units, making a significant investment to kickstart this whole program that the town is looking at pursuing.
If I live on Creek Street, what's the benefit to me?
If I could speak to that a little bit, when we look at incentive zoning applications throughout, a a lot of times it maybe not be a town-wide benefit. A lot of the times, some of the incentives are targeted to specific things. It may be a specific sewer infrastructure. It may be an acquisition of an open space parcel that may not benefit, like you say, somebody that lives on the other side of town. Actually, though, I think this approach does have a little bit more of a community-wide benefit from the standpoint of Penfield has identified the fact that they want to be some sustainable initiatives. This is a way for Penfield to, I don't want to necessarily say get on board, be able to promote the fact that the town supports this type of development. But more importantly, one of the hardest challenges with this type of green initiatives is getting the consumer over the hurdle as to how does it affect me? It's getting the practical applications. Face it, do any of us, besides maybe you, know people that have geothermal heating in their home or have an electric car charging station? This is something of a community within the town of Penfield that is there for other residents to see, such that Penfield as a town itself can promote itself that this is something we believe in and support. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to be the first to do it. So, and then the other aspect of it is a lot of times we do talk about infrastructure, whether it's the sewer, and typically at the town level sewer. But the fact is, the electric grid and heating and those types of resources, that is part of infrastructure. It may not necessarily be the town's, but it is part of the overall community's infrastructure. And, green is here to stay, and it's this type of stuff that is going to be the future and where hopefully community developments are going. But again, those first initial steps are difficult, they're expensive, and
Are these types of initiatives, could this be done in a neighborhood of, say, 8 to 10 homes?
It can
So,
be done from many numbers.
Conventional zoning here, you could still do this.
well, and correct me if I'm wrong, part of one of the suggestions here is as with it relates to the geothermal, is the community loop system. And obviously, one of the things with geothermal today, because it is just not so prevalent, is the initial cost. And that is what is the hurdle to the homeowner. Obviously, if you look at a community-based system, if you divide it amongst, in this case, 32 homeowners versus 6 or 8 homeowners, obviously that cost now becomes a little bit easier to bear for that homeowner. Because at the end of the day, that's who benefits, is the citizen and the homeowner. And the
Yeah,
community
that
has
was
a
my
larger
point
goal
earlier,
as
yeah.
reducing the carbon footprint and their footprint. So it comes down to economics, because right now it is very expensive technology.
You have 32 homes, less pollution coming from each home, less electrical consumption from each home. Across the board, it's more of a macro thing. You can't say, what's it do for my house? What does it do overall for the community? Creates awareness, creates less pollution, creates less taxing on the electrical grid and what have you.
So the easy answer, back to Councilwoman Metzler's question is that if I owned this property and wanted to build one home, I could have that on geothermal, provided I was willing to pay for that. So that's the easy answer, is that anyone building, or I guess even if with an existing home, if someone elected to put it in, I would think that that's probably the more expensive way to go, that if you're doing it after the fact. But if you're starting with a clean slate and doing it, that's probably your most cost-effective way. Doing it with multiple units gets that price even down or more
Economies of
affordable,
scale.
if you will, economy of scale. So, okay, all right. Can you talk a little bit about that area to the east? I see a proposed retention facility, and then I see all the lands, which I believe appears to be HOA lands.
At this point, because as I said, those lands contain the wetland and floodplain that's along Commission Ditch, which is just to the east there, and it is a wood lot. So it's basically an area that we're just looking to avoid. The stormwater management area that's designated there is really just a placeholder at this time. You know, that obviously that engineering has not been done.
Sure.
But it really is a function of just, as I said, just staying clear of the area because of its regulatory, of the regulatory requirements that would be needed going into the area, so to speak.
Okay.
So what would you do? Just leave it forever green?
Well, I mean, right now, we show it, because part of the thing is if this is successful and moves forward, and the thought of a community geothermal loop is then the HOA would be involved, and so there's gonna be an HOA out there anyways.
Yeah.
You know, not knowing if the town would have any desire to take the lands in dedication, but the fact is an entity would be in place to retain title to those lands.
So they are developable lands, even though it's, I mean,
To a degree,
You get
yes,
the
to a
woodlot.
degree, yes, you
Not-
could do
no,
something
wetland
back
or
there.
something. Yeah.
That gets back to the statement earlier, depending how aggressive you want to be.
Jim, you know if there's EPAD issues, or Geoff, EPAD issues back
There
there?
are wetlands to the.
Wetlands, woodlots,
Yeah, there would be a,
two different areas.
right, there would be a floodplain EPOD and a woodlot EPOD on this property at the east end.
Okay. Board, other questions at this point?
What are your price points for an individual home?
Somewhat to be determined. Right now, we're looking at a ranch unit that would be approximately 1,700 to 1,900 square feet. I'm planning on offering 4 different unit types to offer some variety, both in square footage and layouts in terms of 2 bedrooms versus 3 bedroom units. And I'm estimating the price is probably going to be starting right around $300,000.
So I would assume you have at least some idea if you're professing that, you know, there's a cost prohibitive factor here. Obviously, you had to have started with a price point. I assume.
Because of the cost of the technology, I'm seeking a more affluent client to a certain extent that can afford the premium, if you will, on any additional cost of that system. You know, both the solar and geothermal elements that we may be adding to this ultimately. It's not cheap technology, in either way, and we're limited to whatever incentives as the builder we can get. Really, the end user can get some incentives, still defraying only a portion of the cost.
Yeah, who are the builders, I mean, for such thing? You know, is there a special, you have
I have my specialty contractor here for doing all my geo and
he doesn't
solar.
build homes.
Yeah, well,
Do you have somebody in mind that actually builds these?
He does. You're looking at the guy.
That's what
Redstone
I'm trying to
Builders.
get out, I didn't know
Oh,
you
yeah,
did that.
Redstone Builders.
Where have you been doing?
Timber Glen.
Yeah, right off.
Whalen
That's all.
Road. Whalen Road.
Well, I
Yeah.
know he does that, but I didn't know there was geothermal, or, that's what I'm
No,
asking.
I don't think.
Not there. I've done some offsite.
I
Actually,
know you're a developer, I know
What
you are.
started my interest in this, I
Yes.
did an offsite build for a customer that wanted a geothermal system, and after doing my first system and their long-term satisfaction, I talk with them regularly, and they're extremely pleased with their investment in geothermal. The fact that it's extremely low operating, extremely comfortable system, and they, in their case, they were in an area where propane was the primary source of heating, and there the payback or the investment is recouped much faster than in a natural gas environment. So in this scenario, natural gas is available, but we still think that the idea of starting green and breaking that barrier of traditional heating and cooling systems that are consuming fossil fuels and what have you, you've got to start somewhere. So.
Okay. Board, other questions or comments at this point? Staff, any comments, input from your perspective that the board hasn't asked that you believe should be on the record?
Normal technical things that we would ask in the PRC, and I would recommend that we meet with the applicants to talk about PRC issues like utility installation, that type of thing. And I know it's not easy to see there, and I know there is a temporary key turnaround on the site, but key turnaround may not be enough to provide access back out of the property in the event of an emergency where you have 5 vehicles coming on the site. How would we attempt to try to solve that problem?
You want the answer now?
No.
Okay, I have the answer.
The other issue I have is, I assume you've identified the location of the existing sanitary sewer to service the
Yes.
site? It's
Yes.
in close proximity?
Yeah, it's at the corner of the,
I'm assuming it's the one that we were looking to find.
yes.
And then just identify, as Andy mentioned earlier, identification of the EPOD, as to which ones are applicable.
Yeah, we located the wetland limits already. We did do that.
You had any discussion with the neighbors adjacent to you?
No, we've talked about that, but we wanted to do this first. But that would get done if it was deemed that an application to move forward, that would get done before any application would occur.
You know, that, I can't get my arms around it being an incentive zoning, but if there's something that could be tied into what you're discussing, you know, I don't know, we have like solar panels on the, over at Harris Whalen Park, you know, the lodge. We have certain things that we're doing that are related to energy efficiency and so on. If there is something, maybe in that realm, you know, that could benefit the town as a whole, somewhere in the town. Not as, you know, it doesn't, it could be related to geothermal and solar, but not necessarily on your location, but somewhere else dealing with the same. So that kind of brings a little more to tie it a little more together as a whole incentive to project our interest in the town.
It's almost like, and don't take this too literally, but it's almost a way where the town of Penfield and Redstone Builders are, I'm going to use the word partnering, but it wouldn't be to that degree, but
I understand what you
are
mean.
embracing this technology together, them utilizing it in a residential application, but also here's the town of Penfield using similar applications or using similar technology in other applications.
Right.
Now, town would obviously get the benefit from the, you know, from the power supply stuff, but also would get the educational component of it too, of all the various uses.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
We
understand.
can come up with a blend of some, what I would call on-site and off-site.
There you go.
Utilization and hopefully be able to tie that theme together, again, to create a little more awareness for, you know, geo and solar uses in general.
Are you making an assumption that there would be a car charging station to service the subdivision, or one at each location? Or,
You know,
and why do you need one if you can just plug it into your garage wall and be charged without having to do that?
Typically, depending on the vehicle and the battery type, the specific car chargers speed up that process and make it more, you know, extend the life of the battery with that specific charger made for it. So yes, you can plug into a normal wall outlet, but if you get into electric cars, it's not the recommended.
So you're gonna have a common charging area, or you're going to have individual chargers, or?
I think we've explored it both ways.
Then my only other question is, I think you're right, people do like townhouses, they do like duplexes, there's not gonna be an issue with selling them, I would think. People are still hesitant about new technology and the cost of new technology and, you know, repair and everything else. What happens a year from now, all of a sudden, you come back to us and you say, well, you know what? Everybody we've talked to that wants to buy here doesn't want geothermal, or doesn't want solar, they want conventional. What do we do then when there's no incentive, or potentially no incentive?
Well, two things. I mean, first of all, Steve started right at the beginning that he's willing to make the commitment that 50% of the homes would be geothermal. I'm going to say two other things. First of all, the town has, I think, two ways to ensure that happens. A, the HOA documents, which the town would be you know, are capable of reviewing. The HOA would establish that if it's the community loop system, for instance, or a community charge station, the HOA is going to have to govern that. So that would. But at the end of the day, the reality of it is, it's the condition of the incentive zoning approval, and it's like anything else. If the condition of the approvals aren't met, then it's voided.
But
You
you're
don't think it's-
saying after construction starts.
Yeah, and
So then there would be a backup condition. The condition precedent would be, say for example, 50%. Say you don't have the clientele. The backup would then be a significant cash payment to the town.
Could very well be, but
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not afraid to sell at least half of these units out with geothermal. Not
Wouldn't be here if I was.
And to touch on, I don't think any of this technology is new.
No.
It's just more popular now as energy prices rise and the tax incentives are here. None of this stuff's, this is 35-year-old technology. We even service jobs that are 30 years old and original equipment.
Of geothermal,
Oh, yeah.
AJ?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's quite a bit of it around here. It was installed, in the Reagan era when prices were high,
Mhm.
even before then.
Got it.
I can actually take parts from those old units and put them on new ones. Not much has changed.
Got it. Okay. All right, board, any other comments? All right, thank you. We'll take all this information and review it, digest it. We'll certainly, at some point at a future board work session meeting, we'll take that up. We'll make sure that you're aware of that, or check our website as you're familiar to check agendas.
Thank you all for your
All
time
right,
and consideration.
great. Thank you. Thanks for your evening. Thank you. Okay, our next guest, Steve Fedek, Incentive Zoning Revisions, Fox Hill Subdivision.
Steve, why don't you stand up and stay over there by that map, because you're gonna have to do some.
Okay, Jim, sure.
And while he's doing that, I'm gonna pass these out to you, so you have some reference.
Hi, good evening. How's everybody doing? Good, thank you. We're going to be coming in for the final tie-in section of Fox Hill Fairview Crossing. And there's approximately 20 lots here, and it will link in Fox Hill with the Ashlyn Rise subdivision that Sanitary and Brian Holmes are doing. I'm just coming in and talking with Jim and Geoff, and we just wanted to try to transition a little smoother. Most of the Ashlyn Rise lots in this area are like 90-foot lots. We're going to ask the board if we can reduce the size of these lots to about 95 foot overall. Right now they're about 115 wide by 180 deep. So we would gain one lot, would be our yield on that. And the project right now is one of the original incentive zonings that the town board approved back in, I think, early 2005, 2004 or so. So we wanted to ask the board's opinion on that. And also, we were approved with sidewalks on both sides of the road, and we were going to ask if we could scale it back to just go on the west side of the road to kind of match up with Ashlyn Rise, what they did here, and the other end of the Fox Hill Fairview Crossing subdivision that we're finishing up right now. We installed sidewalks on both sides on that link section. We have them over here in orange, between Fox Hill and Fairview, but when we went up Fairview up Cali Ridge, we have them only on the one side of Cali Ridge. And right now, the sidewalks right on top of Cali Ridge end in a cul-de-sac there, and we're down to our last two lots left internally and the one lot on Watson. And the town proposed, or that we were approved with installing the sidewalk on the side lot lines and then coming out onto Watson and then extending it on Watson on this lot 611. So we were going to ask if we can eliminate the sidewalk in between the side property lines, being that we've been telling our potential home buyers that there is going to be a sidewalk going in there, and it kind of makes them a little apprehensive because they want to buy into a cul-de-sac, a larger lot. These lots are like 28,000 square feet. They want to have the privacy, put in an in-ground pool or something, and then to just have anybody from the general public be able to walk up. It's potentially could be disturbing, especially one of our new homeowners over here, lot 609, house number 55. She's a single mom of 3 boys, and she doesn't like the sidewalk idea.
Yeah.
And we also talked to the other neighbors on this side. They said they'd rather not put it in. And the existing ones on Silver Fox, actually all 3 of the people here have in-ground pools. And they'd rather not have the sidewalk because now somebody's walking up behind their yard. So just kind of asking for some input from the board and see what we can do moving forward.
We have offered up in exchange to extend the sidewalk
Exactly.
on
Well,
Watson.
yeah, what we would like to offer is, right now, the sidewalk ends at Silver Fox, the one existing home. Now, we are going to be putting it on lot 611, but I believe there's 2 other existing properties there that are older homes, and there is no sidewalk. So what we'd like to do is finish installing a sidewalk into, to match the existing one there. And, you know, in lieu of putting this one in.
Jeff, can you comment on that consideration in terms of Watson, how that plays into our sidewalks? Is it connecting or finishing off a significant portion? I can't.
The stub at the end of the cul-de-sac?
The Watson, the proposal of.
Oh, on the sidewalk on Watson
There's
Road?
some sidewalks there now. You'd
Yeah.
like to
And
continue
is
some
that
gas.
going to continue or connect to, or?
Yes, exactly. Right now, I think it's number 1 Silver Fox. In other words, there, it would be
West
the
property.
east side of Watson Road, like their side yard does have a sidewalk, concrete sidewalk. We installed it with that section, and it ends at their rear property line.
Okay.
Now, when we're supposed to put in the one over here for lot 611, extend it over to the end of 611, so we're proposing to continue it.
Down to the county, the Barrington town line?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
no,
what
wait
I
a
was-
minute.
Well,
There's an existing sidewalk there now,
there is,
to the
Some
south,
spots.
to the south of this spot.
right.
We didn't talk about going to the Parrington town line, although,
I think there's 2 properties that have no sidewalk.
Fill it in.
I
And
think
then
there's
after that,
sidewalks
there is a
beyond.
sidewalk.
That's
So, yeah, we wanted to take care of those 2 properties.
that's right.
And those are property owners that are expecting sidewalk to?
You know what, I guess we'd have to go and talk to them
I would
about
say
that.
no.
Yeah, let them have that conversation with them. We haven't at this point, no. But, I would think that they would.
Well, we would need an
because-
easement. We're proposing not
Right,
to do
right. I
the
mean,
right.
that's
so
why I
they
was
would
just
have to
wondering,
provide an
are they
easement.
aware of this, or is this something,
No,
that they are
no.
expecting or have been expecting from the
We need to go and
development?
have that conversation with them,
'Cause
sure.
it certainly sounds like that'd be a benefit to connect or continue in terms of our overall sidewalk plan.
Right.
I certainly see the justification, and you've got the homeowners within the cul-de-sac who are not too hot on the idea.
Well, that's something you gotta be careful of, because we're starting from last to first now instead of first to last, but we can do that. We met with, the PRC met and talked about this issue this morning. I think the PRC is supportive of the elimination of the sidewalk to Watson Road, provided that, number 1, we come to an arrangement as to how we can offset the cost, get additional sidewalks in place.
Sure.
The only issue that I've brought to the FedEx attention is that they're working on it now, is the fact that there are several people in that subdivision that bought those houses, and they saw that site plan that had that sidewalk going out to Watson, and there may be some that might be supportive of having that sidewalk for walking purposes or hiking or whatever. I've asked them to go to the neighbors in that tract to talk to them, to explain to them what they're trying to accomplish here, and get some type of petition saying they support the elimination or they don't support it. They have started that, but I don't believe they've got enough people in here to warrant you to consider that this evening. Until we get definition as to who
I'd
supports
really
it
like
and who
to
isn't.
know.
If everybody's supportive of it, I think it's fine, as they're
Right.
proposing it. But I don't want to put somebody out there that assumed that there would be sidewalks for walking purposes, and now all of a sudden we're taking that away.
So for the Fairview Crossing portion, what is the main roads it connects to? It itself?
Fairview Crossing, Linda, it's Glen Eagle Way in here, and then Lynx Court. Lynx Court, and then Glen Eagle goes right into Cali Ray.
Right.
Yeah.
So it never hits Watson?
Watson, no, we don't have an exit onto Watson, no.
See, in my mind, well, I don't know, I was part of that before, but I was thinking, we wanted the sidewalks on the main roads, and this little area doesn't seem to be anything that you would work towards putting it on a main road, because it doesn't connect to a main road, so I certainly, I would support not having that little sidewalk that takes you out to watch, and I think it'd be better for our purposes, for our needs, to lengthen the Watson Road sidewalks if possible.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So Steve, at the end of the day, this really is just a continuation of the development that's up there.
That's right.
Just a complete.
Yeah, exactly. This is the last section that we
Right.
have left here.
So
Yeah.
how many new homes are you looking at up in that?
I believe there's 18, no, there's 17, and we're asking for one additional.
Okay.
One additional, so it'd be, yeah.
So the approved site plan for that area, for that section is 17, and the proposal is for one additional lot, as well as the issue around sidewalks.
You're right, yep, exactly.
Okay.
This is, I guess, for Jim and Jeff, was the sidewalk that goes out to Watson Road, was that an original town board request
No,
at
it was
the
a
time?
Planning board.
That was a planning board request, I'm sorry, planning board request then?
The history of this, the Cali Ridge was actually originally done by Metros Builders.
Okay,
So originally it was just the Fox Hill, and then the FedEx purchased that from, so that's why there's a little difference between the two subdivisions from their approval process.
but the planning board at the time requested that sidewalk?
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, for the board and staff's sake, can you identify where Links Court is located on this map here?
Oh, sure, Jim. Yep, Links Court is this road right in here.
All right, so,
Yeah.
so the board should understand, in discussing this at PRC this morning, Links Court, the portion that was approved in Ashlyn, and I gave you a map just to give you a reference point to where all this is taking place. Links Court is just immediately to the right of the highlighted area. The board required Links Court to have sidewalks on both sides of the street, okay? And they're in, the sidewalks are in place. So the PRC looked at this and identified the fact that because of our sidewalks already in on both sides of the street, they would recommend to the board that sidewalks continue on up to the property line. But the PRC would also recommend to you that where the cul-de-sac is located, that no sidewalks be installed on the cul-de-sac just because of the number of units that are
Right.
there. And that would kind of offset some of the costs. And that we'd rather have the sidewalks placed where they're useful versus
Right.
where they're not that useful.
Sure,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, great.
Is it your intent to come in for a new approval at some point in time?
Yes,
in the near-
yeah, we'd like to
future?
follow through and, yeah, come in with another, for the final approvals and build the project as construction. Yeah.
The types of homes that you're looking at building?
They'd be
in that
very
area?
similar to the ones on Cali Ridge
Okay.
and on Links Court, yeah. There's ranches and 2 stories, kind of mixed.
Okay.
I think the only downside that I saw or thought about is you were looking at that plan where the lots will be reconfigured.
Uh-huh,
We talked about it the other day is the fact that right now we've got that one lot reconfigured across the way from the cul-de-sac.
right.
Headlights are going right into the living room, so.
Yeah.
Something to think about as you're looking for that reconfiguration line.
Yeah, you know what, Jim, we kind of thought that maybe if we took a few feet and kind of shuffled them down a little bit to kind of offset that might get you, yeah.
Right. That's what they're shifting. That's what we want to see.
Or
Yeah.
between two lots.
Couple bushes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this will connect this into Ashlyn Rise.
Right.
Ultimately into Ashlyn Rise, right. Okay, so we're going to get some additional information on the sidewalk piece here. It sounds like you're actually speaking with residents in that area now, and so we'll get some information fed back
Sure.
on that.
Yeah, we'd
And-
be happy to do that, because we just initially went and talked to the neighbors that are bordering it.
Mhm.
But yeah, we can go on and have a discussion with all the other.
That's the easy part.
The only thing is, those 2 lots that the sidewalk is in between we think is the nicest lots in the whole Cali Ridge, and we've had a hard time selling those lots. And I actually have an email, we actually met with a potential home buyer this past, Monday?
Yeah,
And they actually love the lot, they want a walkout basement, but I got a note back from them saying that only if there's not a sidewalk there. So this is probably the 3rd or 4th customer
Yeah.
that we've met with that we can't put a deal together because of that sidewalk. So
Understood.
that's why we're asking for the relief, but if you need
Okay.
I think the board would like to see the majority of the people in there at least. I mean, I'm not certain every single person has to agree, but
Okay.
if there were a group of people that, I think they're gonna lose an amenity, and that's why they moved there, we need to know about that.
Because we've got like 6 so far, so we'll keep working on it.
Okay, that'd be good. All right? Thank you.
Thank you
We
very
appreciate
much.
it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll continue on. We have the Shaw property at 2041 is our next guest this evening to discuss a garage addition to an existing building at 2041.
If you want to keep them. What happened? Oh. I can go.
Okay, I think give us just 5 seconds here. We'll get the rest of this material out, and then you're on, Mr. Shaw.
Well, thank you for having me here and scheduling me in short notice. I'm going to read off the cover letter that I did to the town board in my application. I think it was to the planning board actually. But I'm not sure if everyone remembers my father's project, his property on Penfield Road, on 2041 Penfield Road. It's on top of the hill, the tax and dental office. So since that, everything's been going really good. The new building is up. The shell is up. It still needs to be done further. My building, my office, and the rear of the parking lot is up and running and ready for tax season coming up. But my father, since we last spoke, has become frail. He was sleeping with my son on the ground, and he twisted his back and everything. And so his back was injured, and then they gave him muscle relaxers, so his knees started giving out and everything. So now he's walking very gingerly. He's a pretty stubborn guy, so he doesn't like to use the walkers or anything. So stubborn for his lifestyle and for his work. So he loves working, and he loves doing things independently. What we ended up doing, normally we wouldn't care, but when he started getting more disabled, we got very worried because he has a lot of things on his plate. So he ended up getting a handicap permit for his car probably about a month and a half ago. On the plans, I kind of made a photocopy with little cliff notes on the second page, and that's the current plan. I've highlighted where the handicap spaces were going to be. My father wasn't going to park there, but now he's handicapped, so he would be taking one of the spaces. That circular driveway in the approved plan goes away at the start of the existing building, and there's a sidewalk to the office. My father works pretty odd hours, very early in the morning, and leaves late at night. So he gets there before anyone can put any salt on the place or anything in the walkways. So right now he parks right in front of the entrance, which is going to be removed, like the asphalt, to lessen the walking space. What we're hoping for is to put a small garage, how many feet? 528 foot garage. It's 22 by 24, but it would mimic the architectural feel of our new buildings from the outside. It would be level. It would be level to the new building, how far the setback is. So if you look at like that bottom right-hand picture on the first page. I took it this morning, and you can see that even after this morning, there wasn't a lot of snow, but it's still pretty icy with the cold, and this is reflective of a wintry day in tax season. That garage would be placed at the same level as the new building is going outwards towards Penfield Road. That's pretty much all I really want to tell you about this project. The other thing that I should tell you is we had to apply for a zoning area variance to get relief for the setback. And that's why I drew a map of Penfield Road and everything to kind of get an understanding, because we didn't think that a setback requirement was needed. But then when our engineers looked at the property and the surveyors, even though Penfield Road is going straight and you don't see it curving in, at some point in the past, because Penfield Road is a state highway, they did a taking, and you can kind of see where the taking took place. Right on the left side of Penfield Road, if you're looking at that picture, it starts that kind of, not the very thick black line, but the other thick black line. You see how it's kind of coming out. That's not what the people see, that's what the states have as their legal right. And so you see how our setback for that new building is 50.95 feet. We're trying to put it just direct, so if a person's coming down the sidewalk, it's looking uniform. But for that, the setback, we need setback zoning variance from 50 feet to 39.1.
So essentially, if New York State had not taken that.
Yeah, like I mean, like if you go down Penfield Road, if you go down Penfield Road to Wegmans, you don't see it curve.
Right.
But they did take it, so then our legal right, I'm learning this on the fly too, so our legal right has reduced. But that's what we want to do. And just to explain the garage a little, we're kind of envisioning that my dad's gonna be disabled, sort of, more so. So this would be a garage where he can pull up. He has a garage from his house, which we live only 3 minutes away. Go drive, and he can just go right into the garage because it's enclosed and all that stuff. There would be no ice, no chance to slip and fall in tax season. And where there's a window, they would take out the window and make that a handicap accessible door.
So where he would pull in would be
right into the garage.
Would be on the east side. So if I'm looking at the building, I would not see the garage door per se. That's on the, that would be on.
Yes, yes.
That's why you
Yeah,
said
we don't want
you'd
to
have, like,
go the other
windows or
way.
something.
No, he
So it
would just
wouldn't
be
even look like a garage.
Yeah, he would just be pulling right in. And what ended up happening is I talked to Mark Valentine and Harold and a number of other people, maybe Mr. Costello, I'm not sure. But when we designed this asphalt, then we had to relabel the handicap accessible because we don't want to create an issue. So like we wanted the parking spaces to be kind of okay. So then if my dad wanted to pull out when other people are parked, he can.
Well, also too, right now he's taking up one of your customers.
Yeah, that's which we didn't discuss with Mark Valentine and everyone. But after I started thinking about it, Dad, even as stubborn as he is, now he's literally, it's so bad that I live only 2 doors down from him on Pondview Lane, and whenever he comes for dinner, he can't walk 2 houses down. So he can't walk down the hill over and back up. He needs to drive, and then that's how it is. And my brother in Virginia, he's saying, really? That's how Dad is? But that's how Dad is. So
Okay. So it looks like there are potential what I would call three hearings for this particular
There's a
garage.
lot of hearings. And I'm thinking this is hearing two.
Reapproval
So-
of the,
Yeah.
from a planning board standpoint,
So
ZBA
Yeah,
setback issue, and then because,
It's PD district.
because this is a PD district, Plan Unit Development District,
Yeah. So-
requires this board to weigh in on it as well.
So we're not getting it for this tax season, because we're not gonna intrude our tax season, because that's starting, well, you can start e-filing on the 20th, so get your papers ready. So we're not gonna disturb the tax season, but at least we wanna get it in our mindset. And plus, right now, there's construction equipment right now that's going on, so our contractors are saying, look, the earlier that you do this, it'll save on bringing in all these construction equipments again and disturbing so that's why we've been trying to work with Harold and Mark and everyone and Mr. Costello to kind of line everything up and get everything moving.
Okay. All right, board, questions, comments? Mr. Costello, Mr. Benway, any questions, comments?
Nope.
All right. Board, are you comfortable with taking this to a public hearing at this point, based on past information and current information?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Costello, we'll ask you to prepare a resolution for the board to hear this. I'm guessing it would be, earliest would be February.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that, and then you'll continue to work certainly with planning zoning. There'll be a particular order to go in so that, I get the fact that you're trying to do
I'm
things
getting guidance from all your staff.
concurrently, but certainly that's something that you can work with Mr. Costello on.
All during tax season.
Huh?
All during tax season.
All during tax season, but I'm so happy that I'm over here instead of Dave's. You should come by and visit. It's
That was
really,
a hike for you.
yeah.
So this set of plans here, Jim, which is a stamp, okay, I was going to say, it's an engineer's stamp
Thank
for
you so
that.
much.
So, great, thank you very much. Have a great evening. Okay, this takes us down to our action items. Our first action item is release of sewer easement land, Ashlyn Rise. Mr. Costello.
This is just a follow-up to a previous discussion we had whereby the board had granted the release of the lands for the sanitary sewer.
Okay.
And we have done that. We've actually had a map refiled that identifies the lands going back. But the board does need to pass a resolution for basically for the map to be recorded. And the map will just, or the resolution will basically state that it's being re-subdivided back into lots as you proposed, based on the library page of the map that was recorded initially that showed that land. Be the same situation we'd have to do for the FedEx if we decide that we're going to do that with that
Right.
sidewalk area, is that was also placed on the map as a condition of approval, so therefore it is in effect ours, although we haven't taken a deed to it. So with your permission, I'll prepare a resolution to allow that to occur for the Ashlyn subdivision.
Okay. Board, good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, that'll take us to item 2, and I'm going to combine item 2 and 3 into one. It shows Mr. Valentine. I think Mr. Valentine is buying lunch for Mr. Costello, so it saved him from coming in for these two short items. And Mr. Costello is already here, so if you will, this is as a result of public hearings that were held on the 17th of December. And so, Mr. Costello.
Yes, that is correct. And work with right now, we're requesting your permission to submit resolutions to effectively put into place what was discussed at the public hearings on the 17th. So in essence, we're creating the districts and moving forward with the...
And at those hearings, we didn't have anybody step forward to speak for or against other than the
That's
applicant.
correct.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Board, good with those two resolutions? So while Mr. Costello presented, I'm guessing Mr. Valentine or others will prepare.
Correct.
So we'll see that before the board. We'll have it this Friday. We'll have it next Wednesday, the 21st. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. That Under action items, there are no action items, Public Works, Public Safety, Community Services. That takes us down to our information items. And our first item is Jomanda Way, expanding no shooting zone petition. And so just as a refresher for everybody, we did receive from 5 Jomanda Way, 5 residents, not 5 Jomanda Way, I apologize, let me back up. 5 residents signed a petition to ask that the town take a look at no shoot in this particular area. There are 8 residential properties in that area, so 5 of the 8 did sign, asking for the board to take a look at this. We did make this, so that was submitted on December 10th. On the 17th of December, we did enter this into the formal record of the town, which we do for any and all petitions that come in. And then this is the first work session that we've had since receiving the petition. So the practice typically is that the work session is where the board will go through, working with the board itself and staff, to talk through these particular items. I'm going to do something that is not often done, but we do for from time to time as we have these types of items. So I want to remind everyone, this is not a formal public hearing. This is an opportunity for the board to continue to gather information to make a decision on whether we move forward with this particular petition or not. And so one of the things that I'm going to do is, because there are a number of residents here from Jomanda Way, I'm going to give folks an opportunity to speak. So I'm going to set some ground rules. The ground rules are this. I'm going to give Mr. Dyer the opportunity to speak. He's here this evening. He was the person that submitted this petition to the board formally. I'm going to give him an opportunity to, and I'm going to ask everyone to be considerate of everyone that's here, either for or against. Again, I'm not going to get into or entertain a debate. I'm going to ask that folks have an opportunity to share what their concerns might be as part of our fact-finding and work that we're doing on this. I've asked our town attorney certainly to take a look at a number of things. The noise-related portion of our ordinance. I know that he has reached out and has had some conversations with some other town attorneys in adjacent towns. So as we continue to gather our information to decide whether we go with a public hearing for no shoot or we keep things as is. So we want to make sure we've gathered all of our information. So I'm going to recognize Mr. Dyer at this point. I would ask that you come to the table. And the reason that we do that, thank you, Mr. Neufeld. I would ask that when you do speak that we come up here. I'm just going to ask that folks speak one time. I would ask that they come up here. We do videotape and gather this information, so this is being shown live on Penfield TV as we speak, and then will be replayed as well. And again, not looking for anyone to start, trash talking neighbors or getting into fistfights or anything like that. I'm just asking that out of respect for everybody, regardless of the side that you're on of this particular issue, have an opportunity to at least share what your concerns are with the board as part of our fact gathering. The board also will have some conversations about any questions or comments they have after they have heard from you, and request any additional information that we may need from whomever that may be. It could be town attorney, it could be staff, or otherwise. So with that, Mr. Dyer, if you have an interest, and then again, I would ask you keep it short, relevant, to the point, and factual, if you would, please. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Dexter Geyer. I reside at 9 Jomanda Way. Worked with a lot of you when we got the road dedicated with Mr. Benway and Mr. Costello. So I'd like to thank you for that effort.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm here to address the problem of ad hoc target range being set up in our neighborhood. I've tried to work the issue with Andy. I've talked to Tony. We've talked to our county sheriff department. And we've been unsuccessful in getting it stopped. So that's why 5 of the residents put together a petition, and all 5 are represented here tonight. Pardon?
Can you speak louder?
Yep.
We can't hear you.
Yep. I will try.
Thank you.
Okay. If I could take a few minutes of your time, I'm going to give you a little history. Okay. The day after the Sandy Hook effort 2 years ago, what used to be occasional target shooting, gun sighting in and stuff turned into a weekend of constant shooting. Not only were residents there, but other people showed up. And so it went on for 3 days that Easter weekend. April 5th of 2013, 5 of the residents met with Monroe County Sheriff, said, what can we do? As we went around the room, one of our residents said he no longer felt safe walking up the street with his grandchildren. Another related a time when he was returning home from hunting and claimed he was narrowly hit by a shot coming from a residence. Others told of shooting up near the houses. And for me, what I find is things like this on my property. So when I go out to the back to work on my property where my wife would be training her dogs, I find this. In August last year, Tony, Andy, and I met with Captain Clare and Officer Hildreth, and my understanding was it was going to be taken care of. So when it started up again this spring, I was a little shocked. I met with Tony again. I engaged my attorney. I brought in a consultant in matters like these, and I'm working to get this solved. After the conversations we had this spring, again, I was on the understanding it was going to be resolved. And so when it started up again in October, I met again with Tony, and we came to the conclusion that the only way to truly solve it is to petition, to have no shooting. So the issue really for me is, although you know you can be a legal distance from the homes, I've found stuff like this much closer than 500 feet from my house. I've repeatedly asked the sheriff, are they checking what's being shot? The first time we met with the sheriff, he did not understand your town ordinance. He said 500 feet, cool. Okay, your ordinance doesn't read that way. Your ordinance reads 1,000 feet for rifles, you have a noise ordinance, so I want to know what's being done, what weapons are being used. Okay? Why is this going on at a rate that no gun club allows? Okay? I'm a member of Genesee Conservation League. Okay, I shoot regularly. All right. It wouldn't last at all, the rate of discharge that's going on at Genesee. I've talked to the officers before. Okay. And I was contacted by Officer Hildreth last summer and said it would be terminated. Why isn't it? Okay, it continues. It's a concern for noise. I have a concern for safety on my own property. And my neighbors are also concerned. The noise level at my back door, when this goes on, is 90 decibels. That's like sitting there with a power tool for 2 to 3 hours, 200 rounds an hour on average. Okay. So the last time I noticed, last time it happened, I looked out my front door, I saw one of our neighbors immediately stop gardening, take her dogs in. I've seen people close up their doors and windows, stuff like that. It's not what should go on in a neighborhood. Okay. Now, although I grew up in a hunting area and I'm a gun advocate, I don't believe it's being used properly. So that's why I'm here, to try to get this resolved.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Dexter,
Oh,
sorry,
yeah,
can I-
right ahead.
Just real quickly, just for reference for the town board, your house compared to where this shooting is taking place?
I mean, distance?
Yeah, or just, you know, your neighbors.
Typically,
Number of houses between.
Oh,
I
houses,
don't think you identified your house in
I can
position to...
show on a map, the houses are roughly 500 feet apart. The shooting takes anywhere from 600 to 700 feet from my property. This stuff has been, like I said, has been found as close as 200 feet on my property. Okay, so I don't think it walked there. And the other issue is, although our lots are large, I don't know how you can keep your ordinances on the property, right? At GCL, we're constantly being told they put a backstop in. The Panorama Trail people are always getting upset. I don't know if you've been down there recently. They built a concrete wall to totally block any possible way if you're shooting a long gun. Okay? There's no way in any of our lots you can keep it on without shooting into adjacent property. The properties around us are all posted. It's posted to the west, it's posted to the north, and the county owns the east. So,
Okay, great.
that's it.
Thank you. Okay, and Councilwoman Metzler reminded me that I just wanted to also share that the discussion that we have tonight will be from Jomanda Way residents only. So if someone is here from Creek Street or another county or another town, this really is a discussion the board is having with the neighborhood of Jomanda Way. And obviously, if we move to a public hearing, then anyone has the opportunity across the town or from other communities to speak. So, is there anyone else that would like to address either way? Either way. So we'll go number one and then number two. So yes, sir, if you wouldn't mind coming up and just giving us your name and address, that we have that.
Hello, my name is Sean Rivers. I live at 8 Jomanda Way.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me come and speak tonight.
Thank you.
Part of my reading, I kind of prepared this real quickly. We found about this meeting yesterday, so just kind of threw something together here real quick.
Okay.
Over the past 5 years, Sheriff's Office have visited our residents at least 25 times to investigate shooting complaints. At no time were any violations identified or tickets issued. They've gotten so sick of actually having to drive out and check on us when they know we're doing nothing illegal that they have my cell phone number and now just call me to see if we're just shooting clays to check. The DEC was called in to investigate the request of by the sheriff. The DEC agent went through everything as well, basically saying we're well within our rights to target shoot on our property based upon the distance from occupied dwellings. We were all, every time we shoot, we're safe. I've lived there for almost 20 years now, and I've shot ever since I was a little kid. No incidents have ever occurred from anything of that. The property directly bordering all the residents of Jomanda Way is property of farmland. The owner actually leases that farmland out to hunters to hunt. That's why it's actually posted. These hunters are closer to the other people's land than we ever are in, the people that, like Mr. Dyer's land. They're right bordering his property. They hunt right against it. Not on his land, but right on the border, basically. So him trying to get us to stop shooting still isn't going to stop shooting from around there. Basically, meaning what I'm getting at is I feel us, my being here right now is kind of representing their rights as well. Because if they do try to, if you move forward with this and take our shooting rights away from our area, who's to say they're not going to try and push to take their rights away eventually as well? Because they are bordering his land as well. My family has been shooting in this property since I was a child without incident. And only recently have the complaints attempted to stop using tactics of, or the complainant have attempted to stop it using tactics of intimidation and harassment. Calls to law enforcement and attempting to rally the neighborhood against us, basically. There's no tangible evidence of any wrongdoing, thus we should not be punished. Any Any use of firearms on my property is done with the utmost care in regard of New York state laws and the safety of the community. We've moved here strictly because we can shoot and hunt on our land. If we can't shoot, I can't hunt on my land. That's basically a serious depreciation of value to me on my land. Now, I mean, it's also, let alone slightly an attack on the Second Amendment rights for shooting. I don't know what, the parameters are exactly on that, but, that's kind of how I felt. If, the reason we moved to this location was because we can shoot and hunt and be away from people and do what we want to do. And obviously, we do shoot, it's maybe 5-6 times an entire year. So it's not like we have a range that, was described, that like we shoot every single day when we get home from work, nothing even close to that. There's no way I could afford to shoot that much either. So basically, it's used 5-6 times a year. I didn't really think of it as a big deal. And if there were parties going on or something like that, we would never shoot. We only shoot on, afternoon days where it's, not, nobody's eating dinner or, kids sleeping, things like that.
When you say we, who shoots with you?
Anything from my wife, my mom, a couple of my friends will come over every once in a while.
How many maximum at one time?
I think the most that have ever shot there at one time were like 5 guys, and that was one time. That was because it was a bachelor party thing and they were all together. But other than that, it's pretty much always just 2 people, maybe 3 at the most. Yeah, basically. And it's always shotguns. We're always using bird shot. So, not to say we ever do this, but even if we did shoot in the direction of someone's house, we couldn't even hit it. So, I mean, I'm not saying that we ever do that, but basically, just to say, basically, if you did shoot that far, it wouldn't even go that far. I mean, in that direction, it wouldn't even do anything anyways, because of where we're shooting. The police come down and check us every single time, and they know we're not even unsafe at all.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Welsh. This is my son, JJ, and we live at 10 Jomanda Way. And I don't know if you can see on this map where we live. But, Walsh, W-A-L, I think. And we own 16 acres, and we are at the far northwest corner of Jomanda Way, and our property right there. And our house is like here in the middle of the property, and our son and a couple of his friends, when they do target practice, they're up in this corner. So, and they're shooting away from any houses. This is all zoned, forever wild, and is farmland. So they're not shooting towards anyone's houses. There was one time when the sheriff came down and they said that, I lost it again, but that the boys were shooting, and so there might have been some debris over on Dyer's property, and the sheriff deputy recommended that the boys move where they were shooting. They were shooting, north, but since that time, they've been shooting more over in this area, so there is no one, there is no way that any of that debris could land in Dexter's property. They use biodegradable clay pigeons, so they are good for the, not bad for the environment. And if there was any shell casings, they would be on our land, but they're usually picked up. We've never had any trouble with a lawnmower running over any of those. We obviously oppose this petition because we do own 16 acres of land, and as Sean said, it's not happening every day, every weekend, every month, every other month. In this past time, Dexter told you that there was 2 times. And so, and they're for a limited time, maybe 1.5 hours of shooting, and it's all target practice, and then they're done. none of our neighbors, other than Dexter and his wife, have ever come to us and said they had concerns about the target practice. They've never asked us, expressed any concerns about this, or asked us how often it was going on, or if we could tell them when it was going to happen. I don't understand why any of the neighbors would think that it wasn't safe to walk on Jomanda Way, because none of those guns are ever aimed at the road or anywhere near the road. And, you know, calling the Monroe County sheriffs every time the men have been shooting is a total waste of taxpayers' dollars. They have more important things to do than come to make sure that, you know, it's safe shooting on a property on Jomanda Way. So that's why we oppose it.
Okay.
And I'll ask the same question, how many maximum will be shooting?
3-4 people max. And like she was saying before, like every time, I mean, we live between, the rivers live next to us, and they have woods in the backstop where they shoot over a pond into the woods. Behind there's farmland all behind there, which we're right next to them. But we shoot, and we're more than 500 feet away from Dexter's house or our house, shooting into a backwoods, into a big open farmland. And I actually built a dirt backstop for our pistols, just so if any case, any reason, even if anything went through there into the woods, it would stop in the dirt pile. And we've had, like I said, I think 4 times last year we shot. I'm talking months in between. And yes, we would shoot for like an hour and shoot off like 100, maybe 150 rounds. Yeah, you know, at clay pigeons. But every time we would do it, we would shoot far enough away. And every time the Monroe County Sheriff's Department has showed up, you know, they check our guns, they check our pistols, and all we are shooting is shotguns and pistols. You know, if we shoot pistols, we shoot, like I said, into the ground. The shotgun is target load. Anywhere we are, we wouldn't even reach any one of the houses. You know, not even alone, wouldn't even reach any of the driveways of the people's houses. You know, and everything we've done is always safe. There's never, like the rivers, they've never had an incident. You know, and like I said, every time the Monroe County Sheriff Department has showed up, they've checked, they talked to us, they know what's going on. You know, they know that we're doing everything, you know, properly, and we're not doing anything wrong. You know, and honestly, for what, 4 times a year?
Max 4 times.
You know, honestly, like seriously, that many times a year, and we do it for an hour or 2, like, we're not hurting anyone, and that's our right to be able to do that. You know, and we do it safely. So, that's my feeling on it.
Okay.
Can I ask you just real quickly, how many times has law enforcement shown up at your home? The
Over the
gentleman
last,
before you mentioned
probably at least
25.
2-3 years, probably at least 7-8 times. And every time we've talked to them, you know, we even show them our weapons, show them everything we're doing is appropriate, is legal. You know, we're not doing anything wrong. So they just, you know, they talk to us, and half the time they barely get out of their cars, and they know. They're just like, oh, okay, you guys shooting down here, you're far enough away, okay, you guys are all right. And they'll leave, you know.
And during all this time period when our neighbor Dexter met with Deputy Hildebrand, none of our neighbors ever came to us. And I spoke with Deputy Hildebrand, and he said we were within our rights for the target practice to be shooting. He didn't. So.
And if we have to do something like let our neighbors know before we're gonna go do something like that, I would have no problem doing that.
Well,
you know?
I guess that's where I'm getting at with my question. And
Sure.
the resident that talked before, you mentioned something like 25 times.
No way.
You mentioned 7 or 8 times.
I'm 4 times max last year at all.
Oh, I know. I'm talking about
how many times the cops came?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Law enforcement showing
Yeah.
up. So, I guess my question, and you know, I'm thinking out loud here, is that obviously there seems to be a repetitive issue with the law enforcement showing up. So some of the residents are not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, it takes one person to call.
Yeah, and I understand. Why didn't you, or why wouldn't you have gone to Dexter's house or whoever and said, hey, a couple guys coming over
on his
tomorrow?
property.
No, I know,
You know,
but
we would be
just
very
play out
happy
a
to
perfect world
contact.
scenario here for a second.
Okay.
You know, just hey, a couple guys coming over tomorrow, you know, 12 o'clock. We're going to shoot for an hour before the Buffalo Bills game, whatever it is.
Sure.
Just want to give you a heads up. That way maybe Dexter and his family could go to dinner or, you know, I'm sorry, go to lunch or go to a movie, or if whoever was being bothered by the shooting, if it was for a period of time, would have the opportunity then to go do something else or leave the property if that's taking place. And I'm not saying that, I guess I'm trying to look at it from a fair perspective, that clearly a neighbor has identified that they're not happy with some activity taking place. And you may be within your rights with the
But we're
town
not here to
ordinance
make
and your
our
Second Amendment.
enemies
rights.
of our neighbors.
Let him
But
speak, please.
just out of common courtesy to the neighbors, they have expressed some type of concern that, you know, Dexter, we're going to be, you know, doing some target shooting with some pistols tomorrow at 3, or this afternoon at 2. I mean, whatever it is, just want to give you a heads up. And maybe some of these problems would have been mitigated early on and not resulted into why we're all here today.
Can I say something on that?
You know, let's let these people.
Well,
We're
I would have to say
gonna-
one.
I gave the ground rules. This isn't a public hearing. I'm giving everybody an opportunity to speak as part of our fact to get. I understand, but we have these two folks here, so let the dialogue go.
Other than Dexter, we were not aware of which ones of our neighbors were unhappy about the shooting, so we had no idea who we needed to contact. And frankly, I can't tell you if our son is shooting, how far that range goes. I mean, certainly in our house, they were shooting on October 25th, and we were in the house, and I could barely hear the shots. So I don't know how far. Our house is down in a valley, so and most of the time the noise carries to the north. So I can't tell you other neighbors on the south of us what they hear.
Okay.
So
Right.
We're not here to
Thank
be
you.
enemies with our
I
neighbors.
think Councilman Moore makes a good point, is that there's a neighborhood problem. Clearly, there's a neighborhood problem. And whether a public hearing and legislation that permanently changes the neighborhood is the answer to this neighborhood problem, I think is what we
Or something needs to be worked out, so there's a mutual agreement here, so everybody gets a little bit of what they want.
And we would be happy with
Definition
that.
of compromise. Everybody gets a little bit of what they want.
Right.
And, you know, just hearing the different testimonies here today, I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, maybe just a little extra effort in notifying that you're going to be shooting or whatever may have mitigated all of this a while ago.
But it's hard for us to fix that problem if we didn't know that it was a problem.
No, you raise a good point. I understand. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're next up.
I didn't know if you saw my hand earlier. My name's Brian Jones. I live at 4 Jomanda Way. And there's a couple things I want to add before I get into what I have prepared here. First of all, shooting is a sport, like a lot of other sports. So a lot of people forget that. Another thing is, I know the background on why they may not have wanted to call Dexter. Years ago, there were issues with dogs, and ever since
so we're
then-
talking about,
ever since then, we don't talk to each other. So
Okay.
that's maybe why they didn't want to call.
Okay.
Got it.
But anyway, so, okay, I want to start off by saying that this petition, by the way, was not directed at me. However, I am the third party that did not sign it. My wife and I have always been, tried to be good neighbors, remain friendly and neutral with all of our neighbors. However, because of this, what I feel is controversial petition, we need to choose a side. And so I've decided to stand up for our rights. By doing this, I'm kind of expecting that I'm kind of expecting that now I'm going to be a target of future backlash. But that's a chance I need to take. So a little bit of history on myself. I've been a hunter since I was 14 years old. I used to hunt with my best friend down the southern tier until his untimely passing. Then I continued to go down there for a few more years by myself until my wife and I decided that probably wasn't a wise choice to be down in the woods 2.5 hours away all by myself. So Then I was given permission to hunt on land that adjoins our property. And I hunted there until the landowner decided to sell the hunting rights, which forced me off of hunting there. Now my neighbor, who just spoke, they were kind enough to allow me to hunt on their property for the last few years. And I'm very grateful for this, especially as I get older. And I'm much more comfortable being right there by the house, near the home. My wife knows where I am if there's any issues. So this petition would affect that privilege. We purchased our property partly because we have the freedom to occasionally shoot and hunt. Many people looking at property out where we are would be looking at these properties for the same reason. If this was taken away, this could reduce the number of potential buyers if we ever want to sell. So I feel that that's a negative. All the houses on our street are surrounded on all sides by fields and open land that's open to shooting and hunting. And these fields are much closer to some of the houses than where the shooting has occurred on our street. This petition for no shooting, I feel, is not necessary. It's not a problem. There were a few times, 2 to 3 years ago, that there was what I felt even to be excessive amount of shooting. And I believe that the party doing this would even admit that they probably got a little bit carried away. As a matter of fact, Sean mentioned that he had a bachelor party there, and it did get out of hand. And but I think that he realized that afterwards, and but this is what started this whole issue back when that happened. I was told by Walsh's that they at one time did stand probably where they should not have stood to shoot, and as she just, I didn't know the details, but she said that the sheriff said maybe you should shoot down here in this direction. So they've since changed that. It happened once, and so now they're at the extreme opposite corner of their property whenever they shoot. And like Lori Walsh said, they own 16 acres. So they're well away from everybody. This is not a problem, and any shooting that does occur is, in my estimation, no more than 5 to 10 times a year. It's not a constant occurrence, and it doesn't happen very often. And I think if all the neighbors are honest with themselves, I think that they would have to agree with that. The person that authored this petition used to shoot in his own backyard until joining a gun club. Nobody complained. Now he feels that everyone should join a gun club if they want to shoot. Some of us do not want to or can't afford to, and in addition, we should not have to do that. That's the reason that you live in an area like this. I suggest that everyone try to be a good neighbor and do exactly what you said as you were stating that. Simply let the others know when they expect to shoot, and in turn, the other parties need to understand that this is a right, and it's accepted out here, and they need to allow it without always saying, "No, sorry, you can't shoot right now because I'm doing this or I'm doing that." I also suggest that anybody that does shoot does not take advantage of the situation and do any excessive shooting. I mean, there has to be a limit. I agree with that. All of the property owners knew that this was legal in this area before they bought or built here. This is the same as if someone were to move into an area that has a racetrack, a drag strip, or even a gun club, and then tried to shut them down, even though they purchased their property fully aware of the situation. So in closing, I'd like to say that I feel we lose rights and freedoms every day in this country. Some of these things that are taken away from us may seem like a good idea at the time and may appear to be of little significance. However, at some point you start to look back and realize that these privileges are cumulative and were important. I feel that we need less government control and that this is one that the town should not interfere with. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that has not spoken from Jomanda Way that would like to address this matter, either for or against the petition? Yes, sir. You first, sir. Come right up. You're standing. Come up, and then the young lady in the back after that. So.
My name is Lawrence Garfield, 5 Jomanda Way.
Good evening.
I don't know if you're familiar with exploding targets that the Gander Mountain sells. Some time ago, I was sitting in my living room, and I thought someone had exploded dynamite nearby. I called the sheriff. They investigated and found that in one of these houses, they had exploded one of the, they're called exploding targets. And it's just done for the fun of it. Secondly, at least 3 times in this past year, my wife and I, on a Sunday afternoon, have gotten our car and left because of the noise level. And thirdly, I think this is also a matter of property values. If I were to sell my home and a buyer were to come at Sunday afternoon on many of these occasions, I'm sure they would turn around and leave just from the noise level. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Garfield, how often would you say that the shooting is occurring?
How long?
How often?
This varies. I would say it's at least once a month, and it may be more often than that throughout the year. And sometimes my neighbors describe it as a war zone.
Have you talked to the people who are doing the shooting?
No, I have not had the opportunity.
Have you
To
tried
be candid with you, I'm afraid to go near there during any of that that's going on.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, not a problem. Good evening.
We're Lisa and Bill Sykes. We live at 6 Jomanda Way.
I guess from my perspective, there's several issues that come to mind when I hear the guns going off. One is, we have a couple dogs, and again, the properties are all relatively large, 5 acres, but when the guns are going off, I can't tell where they're coming from. I don't know, frankly, if it's Rivers or if it's Walsh's or who might be shooting them. To me, it sounds incredibly loud. And I'm not comfortable putting the dogs outside because I just don't know. You don't know what they're doing. I mean, how do you know what people are doing? All I know is guns are going off. And, at the dogs, we have, an invisible fence that keeps them on our property. But for some reason, if they got off and ran around, it's just, I'm not comfortable knowing that guns are going off and that, I just don't know what they're doing. And, we have had people over visiting us when the guns are going off, and people look at us like we're kind of nuts. It's not a normal occurrence to be sitting in your house and having guns going off for an hour and a half or something. It just, if we were supposed to know about it before we moved in there, no one came to us and said this is a target practice area. I hope you're okay with that. That was not part of any discussion we had. So it's to me, it's a safety issue, it's a noise issue. If somebody else is making that much noise with some other, like music or something, you'd be calling the cops or something on just from a noise standpoint. So it's not a quiet thing.
I just wanted to add that it's, everybody that is shooting guns talks about it being safe. It's just when you're doing something or I'm outside gardening and all of a sudden the guns go off, it's disconcerting, so it doesn't feel safe. So it might be safe from their perspective and where they are, but like Bill said, it's hard to know exactly where the sound's coming from, and it's more of just not a safe feeling. So usually we do go inside. We're not always there on weekends, and so there's many times we have not been there when I think there've been incidences, but a few times, when we have been there, we will go inside or bring the dogs inside and kind of stop activity. Years ago, probably, it's maybe 15, 20 years ago when we first moved in, Brian once came over, Brian Jones, and said, he was going to be practicing shooting and just wanted to let me know, which was great, and I went inside. And that's the only time that's ever happened, as far as somebody letting us know. But that was nice to know, because then I could then make that choice of going inside, and I did take the dogs in then at that point. And it didn't last very long, which was great. I think sometimes it's the length of endurance, the length of time sometimes is when it's more disconcerting as far as when's it really going to stop.
So you would like to know ahead of time when and how long it would be going for?
That would be a nicer solution if...
It still doesn't stop the noise and all the rest. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not an intrusion in terms of, the noise coming into our property. So it would be better than not knowing, but I think it's also the duration. I mean, how long, even if someone tells you they're going to be doing something, and if they're doing it for, a couple hours or something, it's still a couple hours where you're making an accommodation for something they're doing. And if you've got people coming over or something like that, or
it just doesn't feel safe.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Is there anyone else that has not spoken that would like to address? Yes, and then the gentleman way in the back. So yes.
I'm Roxanne Dyer, Dexter's wife. I'm also at 9 Jomanda Way. Regarding hunting and somebody saying, we knew what we were getting into, we lived in Williamson for 14 years before moving into Penfield. We were a 4-house subdivision with fields all around us that were hunting, and there was never any of the noise like this. When you have the hunting areas around you, there's several shots a day, even on weekends. It's not hundreds of shots in a couple of hours. When we moved to Penfield for many years, that was the same thing. Deer hunting season or an occasional shot here and there. You didn't get, I was lucky if there's 5 shots a day during hunting season for the hunters. So I have no problem with a hunting allowed area, and that's what I expected when we moved into the area. But we have recordings of 2 to 3 hours of shooting with 600 to 700 rounds being fired during those times. That's intolerable. I used to have friends over. I'm involved in dog activities, and we'd come over, they'd bring their dogs, we'd practice obedience, agility, tracking. I can't do that anymore, because even if I make these plans and they decide they're going to be shooting, yes, I do worry about safety. They're in the back of the property adjacent to where they shoot. I have to worry about their dogs getting scared out of their minds because of the noise levels that go on. You don't allow, a noise ordinance, music 50 feet across your property line is a violation of noise ordinance. And I'm listening to 90 decibels or louder for hours. It's an issue. I don't, as Lisa said, I don't feel safe to go outside when this is going on. As far as gun rights and Second Amendment rights, at least 3 of the people who signed the petition own guns. So they have no problem as far as this not being a gun rights issue. It's a gun responsibility issue. And I don't think they're being responsible as far as that goes. I can't enjoy my property anymore. I don't have peace of mind on my property anymore. Is this what Penfield wants for its residents? And like you said, you know, yes, it'd be nice to know, but why should I have to leave my property to deal with noise or to deal with safety issues? I shouldn't have to. And I do find myself sometimes, oh, it's a nice weekend. They might be shooting. Let me go find something else to do just to avoid it. That's not how I want to live on my property.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think the gentleman way in the back.
Good evening. My name is John Sartini, and geographically, I'm probably one of the least impacted. And whenever you get groups together like this, there's typically overstatements on one side and minimization on the other.
What's your address?
1 Jomanda Way. I'll be brief. It is, I don't sit and plot it how often it happens. It happens too frequently. The noise is disconcerting. When it does happen, it does sound like a war zone. I don't care if the shots are to the north or to the east or to the west, they reverberate and they get your attention. And sometimes it truly does sound like a war zone going on. That's not frequent, but it does happen. I have 7 grandkids ranging, 5 of them are under 10, and it's disconcerting to them. I have animals who are scared to death of this. I think this is an issue not of second right amendments or people's enjoying sporting events. I'm all for that. But I'm a big believer that there is a place for this type of stuff, and it should not be in a neighborhood, regardless of the distance in between. I don't know where you live geographically and how close you are to neighbors. My closest neighbor is probably 2 acres from me, and I'm telling you, noise travels. And it does get your attention, and it is disconcerting. And sometimes it comes in volleys. It almost sounds like automatic weapon fire at some points. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, John. Okay. Anyone else that has not spoken? Okay. Board, any questions, comments at this point?
Well, just not so much on the issue of the neighbors' concerns per se, but more on just the actual act of changing or modifying or amending the no-shoot zone in the town of Penfield. I know that for the most part, east of 250 is considered, you know, shooting, and west of 250 is considered no shooting. So I would ask, or just throw this out to, I guess, staff, and maybe this is a question more for Dick, town attorney, to kind of look into, but as far as changing or amending the no-shoot zone, what steps would the town board have to go through, or what steps are we allowed to go through as far as changing that? And if we were to change, because I believe this petition talks about just Jomanda Way, and if that were the case, it would be parceled out independently from the rest of the western half of Penfield, so I would want to know the legality of whether you can actually have a non-contiguous area of town zoned out as a no-shoot zone surrounded by...
spot zoning.
Correct.
Which, you know, we aren't allowed to do, but...
Yeah, and I do believe, I think you're right, I think you need to talk to the attorney about how that would
Okay.
Yeah.
It has been amended in the past, but it's never been isolated like you're talking about.
Right, I mean, it looks pretty obvious that there's a standard line that goes north to south through town. I'm sure it lines up with probably Webster and Parrington. I don't know that, but maybe somehow, but... so I guess, I mean, that would be my first question to Dick, is what legally we have the ability to do. And I would assume, you mentioned a public hearing, if we were to pursue down the road, it would probably open up to maybe 1 or 2 or more.
but that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
And the comfort level of not having all the residents, all 8 sign to do this, what is the percentage you can go with? And if you do,
I think Dick would tell you, I would think that, Dick would tell you that, simple majority. I don't know that, but I mean, we'll confirm that with Dick, but I would say simple majority. So if you had 8 and 5 signed, then you have simple majority. And we can verify that, from Dick's, from the legal standpoint. I don't play a lawyer by day or by night, so I just want to make sure that that's...
I think from a legal standpoint as well, and I've done some preliminary research with respect to, what level of findings does the town board have to make this type of legislative change. I mean, it may be somewhat technical. There are potentially some constitutional implications with respect to what level of rational basis does the town have to show to justify an potential infringement on rights. Even if it is for a public safety issue, you still have to meet certain constitutional standards. And I think that that's a conversation that I know I would want to have with Dick.
We have had it done once before that I'm aware of, since I've been here, possibly twice, but once that I can recall. I guess we would have to dig out that information and find out what the rationale was for that.
Because although we certainly are mindful of the desire of residents, be it a majority or not, we still have to follow the letter of the law and make sure that any legislation that we consider, pass, and ultimately enforce is legally proper.
Okay. Board, other comments? Okay. So next steps. So this is an active petition before the board. It will remain as an item on the agenda for discussion and for follow-up. Certainly both sides of the issue has interest in this matter. This board meets here in work session every 2 weeks. We do post our agendas online by noon of the Friday before. So certainly we can, you have that ability to, to check that, call into my office, and, check in as to when it might be back up. For the next meeting, you may see it as a held item. So it's still on the agenda, but a held item as the board continues to, one, digest the input received tonight, talk with our town attorney, talk about options, but then the discussion that we'll have will be back at this table for any and all residents that wish to hear that discussion. Will have that ability to do that. So that will be the next steps. And again, my office is always, and my door is always open if anyone would like to call me or address this item with any additional information. Certainly, if you have any information you'd like to submit, via email, snail mail, anything like that, if you send it into to my office, I'll make sure that the board is copied in on any and all materials that do in fact come in.
I think procedurally at this point, it's important to keep in mind we are at the point where we're discussing the possibility of scheduling a public hearing.
That is correct.
So an ultimate decision is not in the making or being deliberated upon without resident input.
That is correct. Okay. All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for all respecting each other and not taking any shots and things like that. Thank you for sticking to the facts of the matter. So with that, we'll move on. Our next item is Mr. Neufeld, an update on Flower Mill Park Subdivision 1223 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road.
Sorry for that rude interruption. I thought I had my new phone all buttons pushed correctly.
How's that working for you?
Not so good.
All right, got it.
Typical technology.
Dancing or something.
Okay, so we'll give just 30 seconds, give folks an opportunity to get into the hall. Thank you, Tony. And then we'll pick up with the dialogue. So folks, if I may, Mrs. Walsh, Mrs. Walsh, if I may, could you take that out? Thank you very much, Bill. We have some more meeting to continue on with. Thank you. All right, so Mr. Costello, you have the floor.
Thank you, Tony. At the last meeting, Rudy was in, and Councilman Quinn had asked for some information relating to the density calculations that pertain to the areas around this subject area, particularly Cranberry Cove. Rudy did go back the next day and generate out the information. I've since checked the information. Everything he's put on the letter is factual and correct. I did go back to look at Cranberry Cove, and I just wanted to bring to your attention the fact that Cranberry Cove is a different situation than what you're dealing with in your normal incentive zonings. Cranberry Cove was actually a situation where it was a rezoning with incentives. The board did rezone the property from 1 acre to ½ acre, established a density to say that they couldn't develop more than 90 units on the site, even though the density would have allowed for 100. And in essence, even after the 90 was established, Rudy ended up developing, I believe it was 80 units or 81 units on the site. So that density is much less than even what was permitted for the R120 zone. So what I did do, though, is I took, I've given you two aerial maps. The first aerial map is more regional in nature. It shows the properties. It relates to the properties around it. Cranberry Cove being to the north and to the west, and then Abington being to the south, which is under construction, as you can see. The other thing I did was I took and I superimposed Rudy's proposal onto the property so that it would give you a perspective of how it would fit in with the character of the neighborhood around it. I want to also put you in notice of the fact that if you look at the cul-de-sac to the north, which is Crimson, you will see that it is off scale a little bit, and that house in the middle there is actually a minimum of 30 feet from the rear property line per code. So it is skewed a little bit, but I just wanted you to see.
That lot 20, what we call known as 23?
That's right.
All right.
So I just wanted to give a perspective of it as to how it would fit in with what's there already.
Okay.
That was the purpose of that map. In this map, and we talked about this the last time, Rudy had eliminated one of the units in an attempt to comply with the wishes to create an additional T turnaround to the north. That does bring that down to 23 units versus the original 24.
Okay.
No, I think that was everything there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate. I know the board appreciates this, having it superimposed. I think it gives certainly a little bit better perspective of surrounding properties. Certainly on Crimson Way. So this is my first casual observation. If I take a look at Crimson Way and I take a look at lots or house numbers, whatever that is, 15 through 27. You've got four lots, four homes there, and in this particular, we're proposing 11. I mean, it just that first blush really shows that density level because you end up with some lots that have that lot 27 or house 27. It has, excuse me, it has basically 3.5 lots behind it. The others have, the others have 2, and then one, 2.5. It just jumps out at you as being, a pretty dense, development overall. From that aspect. On the Abington side, it doesn't appear to be obviously as drastic, just based on that property to the south is a little more dense than the property to the north.
So, because I did ask for this, so I'm just reading through as I'm also trying to listen. So I just want to clarify or make sure that I'm reading this correctly. It does look as if this development, what's the name of it again? What were you calling this?
This new one?
This is Flower Mill
Well,
Park.
yeah, we really don't have, we're not wedded on that name yet,
All right,
nobody
then I'll go
loves
with
it,
the new
but,
development.
yeah,
All right.
call it new development.
It looks as if
We'll put that in parentheses.
Yeah.
new development, all right.
We're still searching for a good name.
All right. It looks as if the new development then is at 3.3 units per acre, which is in line with, or at least lines up with what Abington is proposed. Is that correct?
Yep, a little bit less.
Or currently underway. And then the Abington is 4.3 times the original zoning yield, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm just going to say that unless I'm missing it, the plan shows 23 lots. The letter talks 22 lots.
Yeah, that was kind of when we first originally talked about the turnaround, and ran it by them quick, we thought we would have 2 units gone, and when they put the T-turnaround together, and they gave me the 4 extra parking spots I wanted for my guests, they only lost 1. So that really is not an accurate number. I did not even catch that.
Okay,
Tony. Thank you.
so that number is 23,
Yep.
obviously, so that
So that 3 point
that
probably goes
0.3
up
is going
2
to change, just slightly.
Well,
Okay, sorry, Rob.
No, that's okay. So my last question is, what would conventional zoning allow for this new development?
3 units.
3.
3.3 per acre, right?
They're in a 2-acre zone. They would, they're entitled, he's got 6.7 acres, so he's in essence 3 lots.
Okay, so if he's allowed to have 3.
If you
Well,
were
3.5.
building,
Right.
3.5.
So if on the new development, the original zoning yield would equal 3, and we're proposing 22, 23, then that is not the same ratio. Am I off on my math? I mean, I'm looking at, if you do 99 divided by 23 is 4.5, or 4.3 times, 22 or 23 divided by 3 is closer to 7.5. So we're not at...
Comparing Abington to
I'm trying
the
to
new
compare,
development.
yeah, I'm just trying to get a better feel for what the same ratio would be from Abington to this new, so we're looking at 2x over, I mean, you're looking at,
In terms of the difference in density.
yeah, you're looking at twice as dense as what the Abington would be. Is that correct? I mean, we're in agreement on that? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't really have that scenario in mind. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we basically took our 5-mile thing and, fit that in there.
Is the intent to have this be like another Abington-type development as far as the type of houses?
No, we think, and the market seems to indicate that we have 60 or so patios left, and then I don't know what Bill is going to eventually do, but I haven't seen his schedule. We talked a couple weeks ago. I'm sure he's going to be looking for some kind of a patio type thing. So we think townhomes is really what's there. But when we're done with our Penfield, Village Square, there's not much new on the books. Jim is done with his piece. So if you want a nice townhome, you almost are leaving Penfield. So we're not opposed to...
More in terms of like square footage, like with the
They're 3-bed. One thing we've learned already from Village Square is people, although they're scaling back, they want the 3rd room, whether it's a little office, a 3rd bedroom for the grandkid, they want the 3rd room. So we would probably go a little bit bigger than we did there. Those are 1,1500. These would probably be 1,700.
A
So
little bigger than Abington as
no,
far as
a little bigger than Village Square. Yep.
townhomes. Okay, gotcha. All
Yeah,
right.
so we think that it adds a nice mix to what people are gonna want. Some still wanna have a garden, some want a townhome. So we think the use is better for townhomes, and of course it has to be a little more dense for the numbers to work because of the HOAs and the legalities. But we're certainly willing to do whatever this board thinks is appropriate.
So, if you would, Rudy, could you give us a sense for Village Square? So we heard that folks are looking for the third bedroom. I heard folks are looking for a little bit square footage. Obviously, that might be tied to that third bedroom. What other learnings have you had from Village Square? And then, so that's part one. Part two is how is that selling at this point as compared to what I would call a patio home in Abington or more of a conventional home up in Cranberry?
I would say we're a little new with the data there. We just finished our model home late summer and got the grass and the fountains and everything going. So I think the biggest thing we found so far is we just recently offered new options. You had the 2-bedroom 1450, and that was what we built there, and everybody wanted a little bit more. So we've added a lower level now, we've added some daylight windows, and it has totally changed what people can buy. So we definitely think this one, if we go with it and the units work out, we would do it a little bit bigger. We could go with patio homes here too, but I just think it's just a perfect spot to give Penfield residents a little something different that still wants a townhome, maintenance free. And I think the way the property tucks in, it seems to lend itself nicely to that. We've looked at, okay, if it doesn't work out density wise, do we go back and put patio homes? We could do that. But with patio homes, we've got to clear way more. I can't leave as big of buffers because, the patio homes are, say, 60 feet deep, 65 average because they're narrower. If you look at what butts up to Abington, you see the lots are about the same width as the townhomes, but the Abington homes are much deeper. So I wouldn't be able to leave 30 feet of woods around the whole thing, which isn't the end of the world. People would still like it. But being able to almost sliver in a skinny fashion the townhomes, I can leave so much more of that nice garden in there, and I just think it would be a prettier development.
It's like an extension of a clustering.
It's clustering and just giving me a little more room to the back. I look at this now too, and I look at my properties to the cul-de-sac. Those are wider than they are deep because the cul-de-sac, there wasn't enough depth, so instead of 160 or 70 feet deep that the townhomes would be, those are only 130. I don't remember the exact numbers, but if you look at them, they're very short and wide. So proportionately, if you look at the Cranberry Cove to the west, that's more typical of how wide a lot would be. It's the same size lot, square footage, it's just the cul-de-sac squished them this way and widened them way out. So I'm not saying it's the right look, but if you took the little scale and put these guys over there, it wouldn't look like you had 3 lots on one, you have about 1.5. These are 70, those are 100, so there'd be 30% more lot on the Village Square side than on the other side if it was a typical lot, 100 foot wide. But I look at that too and say it looks disproportionate.
Yeah,
But
well, it's like you almost have to look at it as 2 townhomes being 1 lot. I think that those lines that are dividing between the homes, I think if you take those out, it looks...
then it's about the same. Yep. But if we're whatever the density ends up to be, maybe it does make sense to have this side be a hair more dense than the other side. That might be something to consider too.
More dense on the south, less dense on the north.
Yeah, maybe one less unit or whatever the right number for the board is there. Spread those out a little bit, and that might make that. I don't know that anyone would ever visually see it. Not that it's the right or wrong thing to do, but with the 2 buffers, almost 60 feet of habitat not being touched, I don't think you'd be able to stand on one side, even in the winter, and say, is there, 1 more or 1 less unit over there?
Tony, I've done some thinking about this since the last time we discussed it, and Yeah, I guess I've got kind of mixed emotions about this project, and there's no doubt, Rudy, that, I mean, I think your development up there in Cranberry Cove, it's a great neighborhood.
Thanks.
I've been up there many times. People seem very happy up there, so I give you a lot of credit for that. Abington, I think, is turning out to be a very attractive place too, and I think the quality of what you're building there is top-notch also. So I mean, clearly, you know, you build quality stuff, and it's been well received by the fact that it sells pretty quickly. So, but I'm just concerned that this is just too much in this block of land. And you know, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, and I don't really have a lot of factual data other than just my gut feeling here. You know, you've got some beautiful homes off of Crimson Way and along White Spire, and you've got some very attractive patio homes down to the south, Abington. I just feel like this is just kind of getting pushed right in the middle. And maybe you discussed it earlier, and I apologize, but I'm concerned about the buffering with this particular project. You know, face in all different directions, really on the three sides, to the north, to the west, and to the south. To me, I just have some concerns on this is just fitting too much into this property, and I'm not, at this point right now, I'm not supportive of what I'm seeing.
Of the 23.
Correct. So I just got to be honest.
Yeah,
Just being
that's
perfectly
fine. I
honest with
appreciate this board giving me this kind of direction before it's a long, drawn-out thing.
Or an expensive thing.
From our an expensive thing.
Well, that's why we try to do it, you know, with
Greatly
some cutting and pasting, because this board's very sensitive. That no disrespect to BME and others, but you know,
Appreciate that.
Meter runs.
If the unit densities go down, you know, I'm anxious to hear what the board thinks. We can make this project work with less units, patio, but then you're not going to get any buffering. Not to say we're going to go in and bulldoze the place, but now we have to take much more property. It's going to be swales. I'd still try to leave a sliver of green because it's good for me and whoever buys, but I wouldn't be able to impose 60 feet on one side and 30 on the other with patio. So to me, I'm now a resident, either I'm one of my people, I built for all of them, they're all my neighbors. I would, if I could look through 60 feet of woods that can't be disturbed, I think I'd much rather look through that and know there's 12 houses back there, or maybe the buffer's gone completely and okay, there's only 9 houses. But, you know, of course, I'm not being totally objective either, so those are just some of my thoughts.
I understand that, because I think that I think probably is a common concern, or something that at least a factor that we continue to look at is that buffering. Right. And I think that I could be inclined to be accepting of the proposed density if what you're saying was shown to me. You know, show me that, oh, you know, let's do Abington over again. We know that they're a great product, they sell. Let's do it, but then show me what you said. I'd like to see that visually.
That'd be
without
real
you
easy
going
to
to
do.
too much trouble, you know, maybe Kaz doing a little bit more superimposing, because that's compelling to me as to what these other neighbors will be looking at. And I do think that the product that you do put out, your townhome product, like I said, if we remove these lines going through, I think it would look a lot different. At least I'm trying to visualize that. I'm looking at it at a duplex as one
Unit.
lot, so to speak.
I'm looking at Village Square. I'm thinking about, he keeps bringing up what he's doing over there by the high school, how it's going to look in there. And, you know, I think it's a great idea. And I'm supportive of it to the extent, kind of what Paul is saying is about the trees, you know. Certain times a year you can see everything, and then certain times a year you can't see anything, you know. What kind of trees are these? Are these going to be the kind that throughout the year? I mean, are they that thick?
It's got a mix. It was a nursery for years, so, you know, he's got evergreens, he's got beautiful white birch. They're where they are, so whatever the buffering is, if you look at, and I will prepare something nice in color, but if you look at the little line that they have on the cul-de-sac side, there's that little black line, that's the 30-foot proposed buffer. If I develop patio homes there, I'm not saying we're gonna take it to the limit, but now our patio home setback is 10 feet. So if I get somebody that builds a house, they're about 65 feet, but we've had some that are 71. So it's a little narrower, but they want it longer, and then they're extending a sunroom in the back. Well, they can be within 11 feet of that back property line. There's not a bit of vegetation
Or a
left.
deck, or where, I'm thinking also the
Then they're
patio,
right on
they
the
have
line.
they have more of a choice of diversity within their structure, so they can sprawl more.
Yeah.
You've got a little more control with the townhome as to
Absolutely.
the footprint.
Yeah, well, the townhome, once we decide on the footprint, that's what they have to be. There's no decks, there's no pools, it's just too hard to maintain that. So then I can say before this board and anybody that buys there, Tony wants to buy a house, Tony, this 30 feet is green, you don't have a choice, I don't have
And
a
it's
choice.
straight across.
It's
30 feet for
it's
my neighbors, 30
mandated,
feet for-
absolutely. And they have 20 feet that we put together years ago, so there's 50 feet between the cul-de-sac residence and the line, and another 40 feet from that proposed can't touch line to the back of the townhome. Whereas a patio home could technically be 11 feet from the back of their property line, and a deck, a shed could be back there. They put in a shed, I can't say you can't take the trees down. So we're here, I think I'm just giving everybody a little more that I can guarantee. But the other way is doable too.
Once you sell the patio home, then if somebody wanted to clear cut it right to the property line, I mean, that's certainly their
That's their
prerogative. I mean, you don't
Unless
have,
we
you
tried-
don't have control over that.
Unless we tried imposing some other things, but that's so hard to do on a case-by-case
Versus
basis.
the townhome, HOA.
It's done.
Yep.
I can guarantee that that's how it's gonna look.
Rudy, what's the demographics of the people looking at the Village of Square?
It's,
A little of everything?
it's not that mixed, it's pretty much my age, 55, 65.
34?
Yeah, thank you very much. Now I don't care how you think about my project, thank you. It is surprising how narrow, we thought some school teachers, we're gonna get some young folks, but we virtually have that 55 to 65 window, and I don't know that there's any divergence from that at all. Maybe a few couples that are a little bit younger, but that's who's buying.
Kids, no kids?
No kids.
Grandkids.
No kids. We
Grandkids
don't.
playing sports in high
Grandkids.
school.
We all have grandkids now, so everybody's bringing their grandkids in and, loving the paths and the little sidewalk. But I think these people are gonna be a little bit different than the Abington people. They still want gardens, and they're doing a beautiful job landscaping and putting in gorgeous back outdoor living spaces. People buying these
This is more maintenance.
they don't want that. They want to have this
They want to own
place.
their home, but they want.
They're going to be in Florida, they're going to be their vacation home, and they want a beautiful spot. And I think we could create a pristine little jewel right here. I really do.
Yeah, I just want to, Andy mentioned earlier sort of like a gut reaction. I was thinking, my term was eye test, and when I first looked at this, it looked as if it was too dense. And that's sort of why I asked for the information in our last work session, because I wanted to sort of have the numbers to sort of validate or confirm what I was looking at. And I'd have to agree. I think that just at first blush, or continuing to look at this particular layout, I would have to say that it's just too dense for that area. Now, I am in favor of looking at increased density for that parcel. I think it would fit well with the area, and I like what Linda and Paul are talking about, but I think I would agree with Andy that this particular proposal to me is just too dense. So.
Okay. So, any words of wisdom, for the applicant, that might give him a little bit of direction, because it sounds like the internal discussion that he's going to have with his team and with his engineer is, at what point do I take it maybe from a townhome to a patio home? I mean, that's going to be part of that discussion that he's going to have to have.
And that's fair. And part of the reasons for asking for those questions was I would still like to see or have an idea of what a proposal would look like if built at the same ratio as Abington. I mean, I
If you
think...
build 12, let's say 12 or 15, townhomes won't work at 12
Okay,
or
so-
15.
so-
And I hate to say that because it's not this board's problem what my financial ups and downs are, but it wouldn't work. Then we would probably put in, if the number comes 12 or 15 units, whatever, we'd put in, do what we did at Abington, try to conserve as much as I could, but there's not going to be much left conserved. I'm going to keep everything I can, but then we get 12 or 15 or whatever the number you folks think we put in. For the townhome project to work, you know, we have to get fairly close to this number. The HOA and the legal fees and it just to work right. If we put 12 patio homes in here, basically you cut this in half, I would have, say, 3 acres of just open space. I still have to put the sewer through it and all the expenses are there and now you've done nothing with it. So then we'd be better off shifting gears and going back and putting patios, which is not the end of the world either. I just think we're missing an opportunity for residents here.
Yeah, Cos, sorry.
It's apparent that this project's gonna go through something. I mean, we don't know what it is yet, but it might be appropriate if the board and staff went with you to maybe a site tour to look at what's really out there and what kind of buffering there really is. It's hard to see, you know, on a map if you go out and look at it. You know where your property lines are. If you could tag those property lines so that we had an idea.
It's clear as a bell when you walk
I
in.
mean, whether it's townhouses or whether it's patio homes
Sure.
or single-family detached, you know, non-patio, something's gonna go out there. And we probably need to know more about what's going on that property. And now's probably a great time to go out and see it because you're gonna see the least amount of
Because it's 12
buffer.
degrees outside?
Because there's no leaves on the trees.
Let's wait till
And
it's...
you're gonna see the worst-case scenario as to what the neighbors are gonna look at and what his people are gonna look at when all's said and done. So it might be good for us to be able to get out and take a look at that site, and if you wanted to stake the back part of wherever...
It's real clear exactly where everything is. Yeah.
That might help the board.
Oh, yes.
with that. I get concerned when I hear you tell me that you're going to preserve as much as you can, and I think you try to do that in places. You certainly did it on Baird Road. The problem that you run into, though, is technically you need to drain the properties, and you need to put swales and piping and everything else in, and you need to drain properties along the back. And when you do that, you take out trees. So I don't know how much you really can save, how much you can, you know, how much you have to take out.
But Rudy's point is well
They show
taken,
about
in that
50
if you go to a patio home development, you still have to do the same thing, right? From a
Well,
drainage
You have to drain the
perspective.
property.
This property, it sheet drains pretty much by itself. Not that there's not going to be some, but we wouldn't have to go, we've already cleared everything on Abington side. So the drainage to that sheet drains here, and this all goes that way. So that doesn't mean we're going to mitigate some of this, but I'm quite certain, and I'll make the statement here on record, typically we would, just what Jim said, you'd have to take a 20-foot swatch around this thing and do something for, we don't have to do that here. This property drains itself and all literally by itself comes here except for a little bit in the back. So I'm quite certain that we can develop this, leaving that 50 feet and 30 feet here literally untouched except some handwork maybe in a few little light pockets like what you guys let me do over at Cobbler Square. Patio holes just won't, you know, give me that opportunity to do it to the same extent. If it's not presumptuous, I'd love to leave here, and I wouldn't hold anybody to it or hold me to it, but is there a number you guys are thinking so I can go back and say, hey guys, the townhome project is just not going to work? Is there a number that we're comfortable with? And if that's inappropriate, I'll not ask for a fine
I'm not
answer.
sure that, I mean, without the proper, you know, analyzing and what have you, I mean, probably all of us could shoot out a number, but I think that's just the case. It's just shooting out a number. I think the better thing I would like to do is maybe, you know, take a look at this most recent information and the data. I like the idea of the site walk.
I'd be happy to do that.
To you know, to at least take a look at that. But I don't want to get into this. You know, how does 15 sound? How does 18 sound? How does 21 sound? Because that's you know, that's more like a bingo game.
Well, I also think you don't have a unanimous concern over the density. I'm quite comfortable with how you've presented tonight, but I think a site walk is definitely, you know, it can't hurt.
I'd love to do it.
Look, and perhaps then that would give a second look, a visual beyond this by
Good.
which to...
It's pretty prickery, so we'll, there's a little bit of lanes there, so there's some decent walking spots, won't be able to get in every nook, but I think it'd be very helpful.
Yeah,
I was
I think
impressed
it
when
would.
I did my first walk, and I've been on that property for 20 years, but now I looked at it through my eyes of what I'm building and what my neighbors are seeing, and I think it'd be very helpful.
Rudy, remind us again, total number of units at Village Square?
There's 12 there on 2.9 acres. So
Yeah, 3
basically
acres.
there, say 3 acres we used. And so we kind of used that formula there. There we put 12. Here we have just under 7 acres. And so Peter put it together and,
Okay.
He
No,
was
I think
entitled- he was entitled to have 6 single-family homes, and he built 6 duplex units. So in essence, you think it's 6 single-family homes.
Right, and that's kind of where I was, when I was thinking of that, is kind of how I was looking at it. I was looking at the pad, the pad piece. So conventionally 6. You did 6 pads. They just happened to be duplex. I mean, but it, pretty much the same, from a pad standpoint. So, okay, all right, good. We'll coordinate something. I'm guessing, a Saturday AM probably is, or a Saturday. I'll leave it at that. Probably is the easiest for everyone.
I'm pretty flexible.
And-
I'm here for 2 more weeks, so I could be here anytime you tell me.
Great. Okay.
Yep.
And then in 2 weeks you're going someplace warm?
Yeah, pardon me? No, I'm not going on vacation. I volunteer 1 week a month now. My wife and I go up to New Jersey. We volunteer up there. We bought an old real estate there is ridiculous. And you can't afford to buy a house. A house that we have here for a couple hundred there is $400,000 or $500,000. But we found an old log cabin, a 1930s old log cabin, 3 rooms. It's literally like being on
Third
TV.
room, though.
Yeah, that's it. See, I have the 3rd room. It's 600 square feet, and an old lady had it for years, 100 years old, and she passed away, and it was in such shambles, no one would buy the thing, so we got it cheap enough. We rehabbed it, fixed it up, and so when we go up there, we live in the little place, and we volunteer up there 1 week a month. So
Very
it's
nice.
usually the
Do
first
you have running
week-
water?
Oh, we got running water now.
All right.
My poor sweetie lived in a little metal camper through that last winter when it was 0 degrees for 2 months. And we didn't have a bathroom for a week, and running water was scarce, but she survived, so.
Got to know each other real well.
Yes, yep. She's still with me.
I was just going to say that's long lasting right
Yeah.
there.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Very much,
One
guys.
last
Yep.
question. Neighbors surrounding your proposal,
Yep.
are they aware? Have you spoken to them? What do they know?
Most of the people on Abington side, because I see them almost on a daily basis, so we've discussed it with them. I have not brought this to the public until this meeting. Now, if we think something good is going to go here, I don't want to go to the neighbors and say, well, I think I'm going to build townhomes, but I might build patio homes. I want to, once you guys give me some direction, I want to go to them with real nice mapping. We'll have an informal session, which you folks will be invited to if you'd like to attend, and we'll have them all come to the design center, which is right here, and say, here's what we're doing. They can voice their concerns and at least know what's going on.
Okay.
Sounds good.
One question.
Yeah.
Can you do this without Phil?
No, I can't. I was thinking about this the other day when you told me that Mr. Vendel's doing his property. Can he build his property without Phil? You need 9 feet of fill. 9 feet of fill.
Or dump it on Webster.
Yeah, but you know what the good part is? He has a haul road already, so he can drive the trucks in and out behind his barn, and no one will complain, and certainly I won't
Make sure
complain.
everything gets dumped in Webster.
Yeah.
Well, one woman complained
It's our
about
parting gift.
Too
the
bad.
topsoil noise.
Isn't it ironic? You board members hear the whole spiel. You had this Hatfield McCoy thing today, handled it very well. When I did Abington, and Bill and I are friends, I've known him a long time, everything was no good. Drainage was no good, it wouldn't work. Traffic was, everything about the project was terrible. Now he's coming in for an approval. Should I come in and make a fuss? Of course not. But he's gonna go through the same, and so will Mrs., who's behind me there?
Mrs. Clary.
Clary. They're gonna develop that, and they're gonna have the same issues that I had, but no one will complain. That's the way it goes.
Okay.
Thank you very
Rudy,
much, Board.
thank you very
Thanks for
much.
your time, as always.
We
So I
appreciate
will
it.
wait to hear from.
Yep, Mr.
somebody
Costello will be
full-time.
our focal
I'll be
point.
flexible when the most of you can get together.
Yep, sounds good.
I even provide you coffee.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, this brings us to the end of the agenda. I will take just a moment here and see if we can get a little red ears from Mr. Benway. This will be our last work session with Mr. Benway. Mr. Benway will be moving on to a new opportunity in the town of Webster as their Commissioner of Public Works. Promotion for him and an opportunity for him to continue to grow and expand both his engineering and his DPW skills. And so I'd just like to take a moment to thank Geoff for his efforts over the years, not only for this board, but many other faces on this board over the years. And we just wish him all the best on his next chapter. And any water fill and otherwise, as Councilwoman Metzler had indicated, head north. So, Geoff, best wishes, congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure working with all of you. And I look at it as an extension of working for the town of Penfield. All the water runs north. Because we want to clean the ditches and increase sewer capacity for you guys. So
Perfect.
I'm still...
You're being...
Yeah, this is on the record. This is on the record. Ron Nesbitt will have it at 8:53 tomorrow morning. So good luck and
Another
best wishes.
example of Penfield being a tremendous ground by which the other neighboring towns are looking for our expertise.
Absolutely.
I would just indicate that if you have some free time between 2:30 and 4 o'clock, I think it's on Sunday, January 25th, we're going to be talking a little bit about some folks that made Penfield what it is today and who they are. And we're even going to talk a little bit about the Webster-Penfield connection, being one community at one point, and so part of the Penfield Heritage Association.
3 projects while I was here. So.
All right.
You're not one of the people they're talking about.
I didn't expect it. I wouldn't show up.
You're not old
Okay.
enough. You're not old enough.
All right, seeing no further business to come before the board, we'll stand adjourned at 9:29 p.m. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Lisa. And again, Mr. Benway, best wishes.